Cela siphakame size kwezitulo.
Tenkoma, I audible and clear?
Board, Chair, yes, I can hear you, Chair. Yeah, audible.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable members and committee support. May I just check if we have the quorum? Time is now 8 o'clock, and that's the time for us to start the meeting.
Thank you, Chairperson. I can confirm that we do have the quorum to proceed with the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoma. Greetings to honorable members on the platform, civil society structures, fellow South Africans.
Recording in progress.
On the platforms provided by Parliament. I will, without waste of time, just to indicate as I welcome you and dispensing with formalities that this is a subcommittee meeting created by the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies in the National Assembly. So it's a meeting of the subcommittee to engage in the MDDA appointment process and therefore would report back to the committee later this evening. Just to remind ourselves on the rules of the National Assembly that apply on meetings convened on this platform. Members are reminded of the rules that one, we must at all times ensure that our video cameras are switched off, mics muted until you are recognized by the chairperson, in which case you will then proceed to unmute your mic, switch on your video camera, and proceed to speak. In a case where you're experiencing connectivity challenges, will indicate for the permission of the chairperson that your video camera be switched off so as to maximize your bandwidth and be able to proceed to participate in the meeting. From time to time, it's also understood that there may be connectivity challenges where people will be disconnected and have to reconnect to the meeting. Please ensure at all times when you reconnect to the meeting that your video camera is switched off and your mic is muted, as mics are very sensitive and therefore could pick up background sounds that may distract the speaker on the platform and the meeting as whole. Whilst point of orders are allowed in terms of the rules, anyone who wants to raise a point of order would have to raise the hand on the gadget. Where I'm unable to identify the hand, the committee support will also help me to identify such a hand. In that case, that's when you are recognized by the chairperson to raise the point of order. You'll then proceed to unmute your mic and switch on your video camera. Proceed to raise the point of order on which the chairperson could rule upon in terms of the rules. Members are advised not to raise unnecessary point of orders to a point where a meeting on this platform, if we keep those honorable members, the basics of us proceeding with our meeting qualitatively, that would be much appreciated. I will therefore check with the committee support for purposes of record that we do have a quorum, but if there are applications for leave of absence or apologies, that we receive those apologies and place them on record. Committee support.
Thank you, Chairperson. I have received one apology that would have came from Ms. Zandile Majosi, a member of this subcommittee, who's currently in KZN and preparing for the funeral arrangements of the late IFP former President, Mr. Buthelezi. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoma. I take it that there are no further apologies from members. If that's the case, I take it that we do approve that apology. And if that's so agreed, we'll now move to the item on the agenda. As I said, it's about the appointment process for the MDDA. I would then, in that score, allow first the Secretary of the committee, Mr. Ngoma, to briefly capture the journey thus far to where we are, and also the process that would follow post this committee, this subcommittee meeting. Mr. Ngoma.
Thank you, Chair. As I'm just trying to get my document on screen. Thank you, Chair and honorable members. I hope I'm audible, Chair.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
All right. Thank you very much, Chair. This is just a recap on the appointment process of MDDA Board members. Just to remind the members, according to the Act, the MDDA Board consists of 9 members. 6 members of the board are appointed by the President on the recommendation of the National Assembly, according to the following principles: the participation by the public in the nomination process. We pass that stage chairperson. Members have submitted nominations. Transparency and openness. Chairperson, this meeting is open to the public and is currently being streamed on parliamentary social media platforms. Chair, and the publication of a short list of candidates for appointment with due regard to subsection 4 and 5 of the MDDA Act. Chair, that's the process that this committee follows, as later I will talk to this public participation process. Chair, the other 3 members are appointed by the President, who takes into consideration section 15, of whom one must be from the commercial print media and another from the commercial broadcast media. And then the President must appoint one of the members as the board chairperson. Chair, currently when I prepared the presentation, there would have been 7 board members, but Chair, Ms. Brenda Leonard and Ms. Clark had their term expiring, which then led to the 2 vacancies that we had advertised for. And also the 1 vacancy that had arisen as a result of Ms. Andiswa Ngwana resigning from the board. Chair, now the task of the committee is to enable the public to nominate 3 persons to fill the vacancies that had been done. Chairperson will run an advert for the vacancy of Ms. Ngwana, and then we ran another advert for the 2 vacancies of Ms. Marina Clark and Ms. Brenda Lombard. So just to briefly explain that we received a letter from the Speaker. She was informing the committee of the vacancy in the board that arose as a result of the resignation of Ms. Andiswa Ngwana, rather. And in the letter, the minister had requested that we initiate a process to fill that vacancy in terms of the Act. We advertised and received 13 nominations. However, 3 of the nominated candidates did not submit copies of qualifications, even after numerous requests, and 1 of the candidates did not submit, 1 from the 3 did not submit qualifications, and also fingerprints for verification by the State Security Agency. I've indicated on the presentation that they are highlighted in red in the list of nominees that I have sent to the members. Chair, for the other 2 vacancies, we received a letter from the Speaker indicating that there would be vacancies as a result of the expiry of the terms of Ms. Leonard and Ms. Clark, and the letter was also requesting that the committee initiate the process of filling those vacancies. Advertised chairperson, and we received 16 nominations. Safe to say, from those 16 nominations, the candidates submitted all the required documentation. Chair, we've conducted qualification checks on all candidates, and they were. My apologies. The presentation indicates that we await result of one candidate who had an international qualification. I can safely report to the committee that yesterday I had received that. So all candidates that had submitted for the two processes were verified. The only thing that is currently outstanding is the State Security Agency results for the candidates that had applied for the two vacancies. Also, Chair, I can just report that I am in contact with SSA, and they are working on getting those results to me as soon as possible. Although I cannot commit on their behalf, but I expect that by the time that we complete the public participation process, I would have those results. Chair, what is required then for the one vacancy, for the subcommittee to shortlist? It is proposed, Chairperson, that the subcommittee shortlist 4 candidates to be interviewed for that vacancy. And it is further proposed that for the 2 vacancies, the committee then shortlist 8 candidates to be interviewed for those 2 vacancies. And then the committee is meeting later, and it is expected to adopt the report of the subcommittee for tabling to the National Assembly, and also to allow the public participation processes to kick in. Chairperson, once the committee adopts the shortlisted candidates this evening, then the names of the candidates will be published for the public to make comments, and will afford a period of 2 weeks for those comments to be made. Chairperson, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoma. I hope I'm audible now. Thank you, Mr. Ngoma. Honorable members, that's the brief presentation. Maybe just to help guide the meeting, so for practicality of the process. Firstly, that yes, we have 2 items on the table. And I want to indicate that the indication with regard to the number is to look at the vacancy of not more than 4 to be interviewed. And therefore, if you look at the 3, we're looking at 12 names. So there will be those names that have undergone qualification verification, as well as state security vetting, but others are still subject to, which were those that came as a result of the 2 other vacancies. So in practical terms, we'd have a presentation for about 12 names. And we are going to run the processes at the same time. And then the other matters would be able to handle them in the actual report that goes to the House as to the different times in terms of the adverts. I thought it's important that we clarify that practicality we're dealing with. So we'll proceed and deal with all the 3 in that fashion. So having clarified that point, just to guide again on the process, is that you have received the summaries of all the candidates as members. If applied to mind, of course, we need to select from those the 12 I've referred to, taking into account the skills, the competencies, the demographics, and so on, but also more importantly, the needs of the MDDA as the board, as well as matters that need to be dealt with by the MDDA at this stage. So that's going to be important as we look at those names, that we take all that into consideration. But we also recognize that this process is led by members of parliament drawn from different political parties, because we're in a multi-party system. So we allow space for everyone to make presentation. So it's not a matter of numbers. The issue about numbers has been sorted out by the electorate in 2019. So the numbers are clear in that regard. But the approach of the committee has always been about trying to reach consensus, persuade each other, and that in a situation where you have to use the numbers, it should really be the last resort in terms of deadlock breaking mechanism, because the decision at the end has to be made. So we've not really reached that point. So we always value the inputs from all sides, so that we really get the best of South Africans that have presented themselves to serve in these entities. The MDDA also being an important one, especially in our times. I'm sure members understand that quite better. So that's where we are, honorable members. So in that score, we would expect the presentations from members having looked at all these principles that we have applied every time we look at these matters. And therefore take presentation from each party instead of each member, and then engage that depending on what is presented. Will then guide based on the presentation. That's what I thought it's important to explain before we get to the process itself. May I take any clarity if there's any matter to be clarified at this point, so that once we get to the presentation of names, we then proceed from that point. So in the absence of a hand, I take it that there's better clarity from members, and I will therefore not waste any further time to make the presentation, to raise the hand and proceed to do so. Honorable Mlala, you are recognized, who will be followed by Honorable Bojani.
Yeah, thanks.
Proceed.
Thanks, Chair. Having considered all the necessary qualifications and demographics and blah, 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 I'm proposing the following names. The first name is that of Brenda Leonard. The second one is Marina Clark. The third one is Tembelani Mpakati. The fourth one is Ondile Gedama. Fifth one, Musidi Mkhele. 6, Lizega Mda. 7, Mbasa Metuse. These are my proposal, Chair. However, I also have, I don't know if it's procedural, Honorable Tambo has also informed me that he's flying to KZN now from Joburg, and he has requested me to submit 2 names for EFF. I don't know if I should proceed, Chair, so that I don't represent the EFF, but he has requested me. So I feel obliged to inform the meeting that he is proposing two names, Lisa Gamda and Carol Malulek. I think that's all, Chair.
As I give to Honorable Bolani, of course, I'll take it that if Honorable Tambo made the submission, that submission must still be forwarded to both the administration and myself as the chair. I've heard the names, but I think for purposes of record and procedure going forward, as part of his apology, we should have also received that. So I take it, Honorable Mlala, will be advised to do the same, just to also cover yourself that you are not the proxy here. Thank you, Honorable Mlala. I now recognize Honorable Bodlan to proceed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, before I proceed with providing my names, can I please ask for your guidance? Because on the lists that were provided by Mr. Ngoma, there were some that did not comply with all the requirements, and it is my understanding that therefore their names would not have been submitted for vetting. And one of the names that Honorable Molala has nominated is that of Miss Musidi Mokhele, which is, according to my understanding, did not fully comply. So maybe before I start, if we could just clarify that, if those people would still be eligible for consideration. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bodlani. I would have taken that, it's just that the names are not presented, so will be flighted later on. Surely we're going to comment on that. Those that didn't meet what was required would not be really a consideration. I think the commitment also starts there, especially when it gets to issues of submitting your qualifications as required, as well as the vetting process in that regard. So we take those matters seriously, and I think that's why Mr. Ngoma would have placed that on record. So we'll keep that for the discussion that follows. Pen and proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the names I have is the name of Advocate Matsobani Gabriel Millo, the name of Miss Brenda Leonard, the name of Miss Lizeka Mda, Miss Marina Clark, Mr. Kondike Dama, Mr. Grant Son, Miss Carol Mielani Maluleke, Miss Hulisani Mushiane, Miss Jayshri Petha, Mbasa Matuse, and Tembalani Pagade. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Bodlani. Just giving few minutes, they'll indicate if they are ready to fly so that we get to the next process.
Chair, my sincere apologies. Whilst I got interrupted when Ms. Bodlani was presenting the name, so I got only the last two names, that of Mr. Metuse and Mr. Mpagati. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Bodlani, you can just read again slowly.
I have Advocate Matsobani Gabriel Millo, Miss Brenda Leonard, Miss Lizeka Mda, Miss Marina Clark, Mr. Kondi Gedama, Mr. Grant San, Ms. Carol Maluleke, Ms. Wulisani Mushiane, Ms. Jayshri Patha, and then Mr. Metusi and Mpakati. Thank you so much, Chair.
Did you got it, Mr. Ngoma?
Chairperson, thank you. I've got it. Chair, I think before I can even proceed any further, there's a matter that I need to clarify that they are relating to this candidate. I think, Chair, if you can see on the screen, I've decided to share the email. The email would have been sent of Ms. Musidi Mokhele on the 29th of May with the consent form and qualification. So we have it, Chair. I thought that it's very important that I share it with this committee. Chair, as I just done that, also to explain that maybe not necessarily, but for the record that you would know and members would know that some of the processes I've just taken them over, so I would have tried everything to just get the records, but sometimes, yeah, it was not as easy. So, Chairperson, I hope that then at least Ms. Musidi clarifies. But as I Chair, on the list, you would have noticed then that there were 3 candidates in actual fact that are highlighted, right? So I'm safe to say that with the other candidate, Mr. Falcon, he has numerous occasions refused to submit the qualification, although he submitted two letters of him being admitted as an advocate. But I've more than, I can't remember how many times I've requested a copy of his LLB degree as listed on his CV. And Chairperson, the other candidate on those that are highlighted in red, Ms. Asanda Fuma, she did not submit, even the State Security Agency. I've had to really go back to the record, Chair, because I had realized that Ms. Mokhele had even been vetted for SSA. So I just thought I should clarify that. And yeah, the time the email was sent, Chairperson would know that we were busy. I was not even part of the process, even though I'm happy that I was copied in the email, because that's how I was able to do the last verification that there's nothing before me. Thank you, Chair. On that note, Chair, I'll just move then to present the names as members, as they were read here by members. And I will be corrected if I've left out any name. So from the ANC, it's Ms. B. Leonard, Ms. M. Clark, Mr. T. Pagati, Mr. Kondile Kedama, Ms. Musidi Mokhele, Ms. Liza Gamda, and Mr. M. Metuse. And Mr. Mulala also submitted 2 names that would have came from Mr. Tambo. That's Ms. Liza Gamda and Ms. Carol Maluleke. Chair, you have already indicated here that Mr. Tambo would have to also communicate his message with my office and that and your office as well. And Chair, from the DA, Mr. Metuse, Mr. Pagati, Advocate Melo, Ms. Leonard, Ms. Mda, Ms. Clark, Mr. Yuke Dama, Mr. San, Ms. Sima Luleke, and Ms. Mushiane. Chair, like we always do, I'm just going to highlight the names. Okay, Chair, I've done it the tip that I use now does not allow me. But Chair, those are the names, Chairperson, and then I think Mr. Dr. Medupe will just also assist to look at which names seem to be common amongst the.
No, I think before we do that, let's just have confirmation first, because there's been a communication breakup in some instances. Maybe let's start today and see, Honorable Mlala, if you can indicate that these names as presented, verified, they are as you would have presented them.
Ms. Bodlani's hand is up.
No, but I've asked, I'll come to you, Honorable Bodlani. I'm
Yes,
checking Honorable Mlala.
Chair, I think this is a true reflection of what I presented, except the fact that we only know that Mkhele has been disqualified. Thanks for that.
No, it has been corrected, Honorable Mlala. Like we said, clarification will be done once the names are put up. So there's clarity now that there is correspondence to that effect that clarifies it to have complied. So that's a correction as I heard Mr. Ngoma and the email copy that he presented. So if you're satisfied with the names, I will then go to Honorable Bodlani from the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, as the committee support looks at the names for duplication, I think as we have agreed on the process of ensuring that from the first batch of applicants, we are going to have 4 and have 8 from the second batch, we should just please be cognizant of that fact, because I'm not very sure myself if I met those quotas. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bodlani, but the names as you presented them, I think that's what we're checking. The names as you presented them, you are fine with that.
Yes, Chairperson, thank you.
Thank you. I think then we'll just give them a few minutes to do the names that appear, including the names that have been raised from the EFF, so that we know those names that are supported by the 3 and those that are supported by the 2, and then say what do we do with the remainder of the names.
You know that Mr. Maleka often assists with this process, so I'm just trying to work something out that will be of great assistance to all of us. Chairperson, the common names between the DA, EFF, and ANC is that of Ms. Lize Kamda. Ms. Lize Kamda is on all three party lists. And then Chair, thereafter Chair, Mr. Metuse, Mr. Kedama, Mr. Mpagati, Ms. Clark, and Ms. Leonard are on the list on both lists of the ANC and the DA. And then Ms. Carol Maluleke appears on DA and EFF list. And then names that are not common, Chair, those that are black on the two lists of ANC and the DA, which in one would be Ms. Mokhele. She's appearing only on the ANC list. And Advocate Melo, Mr. San, Ms. Mushiane, and Ms. Petha are appearing only on the DA list. Thank you, Chairperson. Those are the names. So basically, Chair, names that look common on all lists are the 6 names that are at the bottom that I've highlighted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So Ms. Maluleke, you'd remove that name that you put there on the red under the DA so that that name is out. It helps us to see what are we dealing with. Then that makes about 4 names there. And then says an extra name. We are currently sitting at looking at the names now.
7 names, Chair, if including Ms. Maluleke.
But isn't it 8?
It's 7, Chair.
Okay. Oh, it's because Mda is thrice. Okay. So that's 7. And you are looking at 12 names. Honorable Mlala and Honorable Bolani. I would want you to respond on the presentation that if those names would have been agreed upon as names to be presented. You've got 1 that's not in agreement as the NC. And there are about 4 names, Honorable Bolani, all put together will give us 12. And maybe done unless there are particular names prepared to withdraw, and then we start the process again of considering other names. But otherwise, having common names to that level, it means there was serious consideration by members in that score. With 5 that's outside, I'm checking if you are persuaded or you'd want to withdraw some and propose new names. So if you are persuaded to accept the 5 remaining names, and that would then give us the 12. Then maybe in response to a point you've raised, Honorable Bolani, the numbers are in relation to the vacancies. So we count the 12 on those bases. So we'll interview 12 people. I think in the actual recommendations, we'll keep that in mind, that on the first point, there would have been those that responded to the first advert. But similar people would have also responded to even the second advert. But there will be those that may have been restricted only to the second advert, especially those that were still sitting. Members of the board have not applied when Ms. Nguyen was resigned. So that's managed. But we still have to come out with the 12 names that we need to come up with. So I'm presenting it to yourselves. I'm not sure if you want to come first, Honorable Mlala or Honorable Bolani. on whether you're persuaded or not, or you'd want to draw some and put your names.
No, Chair, I think I'm persuaded that there will be no need because the names are here and they are covering the party that is not here. So for me, the remaining 5 will add and make 12, and then that will be a consensus. And then because this is just mere shortlisting, and then we'll have to deal with the details when we interview. So for now, I think I'm okay.
Thank you, Honorable Mlala. Honorable Bodlani, any comments?
Chair, I welcome the approach of Honorable Malala.
So there's agreement in that, so we'd have 12 names as you'd capture, and that's what would go to the main committee as a report on the MDDA appointment process. We have already indicated what would then happen. Honorable members post the subcommittee meeting, as well as post the adoption of the report of the subcommittee when the names would be out there. Will then be briefed by committee support on all updates that may have been received. Honorable Bodlani, is there something we're leaving behind?
Chairperson, there's just a mistake. Ms. Mukhele is placed on the final shortlist, and we've just made a decision that because she did not comply, we will not consider her. So I just think it's just an omission or just a mistake on the part of Mr. Ngoma. But I'm not sure whether, if you could just go up, Mr. Ngoma, so that I see which name you missed.
Okay, let me clarify that one, Honorable Bodlani.
Yes, sir.
We said we'll have clarity at the end when your names have been proposed. We noted the names. And then Mr. Ngoma then came back to make that clarity, that as it relates to Smukhele, she did comply. It would have been in the records that the matter would have been based. He also then produced an email confirming that from the side of Ms. Mukhele. Hence, we said that name then from Honorable Mlala would have been considered. Mr. Ngoma, am I capturing it properly? Mr. Ngoma?
Chairperson, yes, Chair. When you're sharing, Chair, it becomes a struggle sometimes to get to the mic. Yes, Chair, you've captured it correctly, Chair. Just to show it again, Chairperson, as I had done earlier, in case Ms. Bodlani missed the email. Actually, yeah, missed the email, Chair, and there it was, Chair, wherein Ms. Musidi Mukhele on the 29th of May would have sent a signed consent and indemnity form. The information that I did not have, as I had indicated, Chair, that at the time, me and you would have been in the committee for Section 194, and I was copied on the email that was then sent to the person that was standing in for me in terms of these appointments. But I had to dig and for that email, Chairperson, upon the indication that she would have submitted the information. Hence, I put it up for members to see, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ngoma. So that's the clarity, Honorable Bodlani, that was given just before we went to common names and so on. I know we may have missed that. I think Honorable Mlala also missed that, so we had to remind again. So the names in that score would be correct. What will be needed is to put them up again so that if there's any mistake or misspelling can be corrected.
I'm happy to for the name to be added, Chairperson. Thank you so much for the clarity.
Mr. Ngoma?
Chairperson, yeah, the 12 names, Miss Brenda Leonard, Miss Martin Clark, the team, Pakati, Mr. Kedama, Miss Liza Kamdam, Mbasa Mituse, Miss Carol Maluleke, Miss Mutsili Mukhele, Advocate Melo, Mr. Grandson, Miss Mushian, Miss J. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I take it that then we've now come to a point where we need to check first. Honorable Bolani?
Chair, could Mr. Mngoma just please flight the names as he reads them?
Yeah, Mr. Ngoma, it seems that your sharing does not get to share properly.
I noticed, Chair, I even thought at some point I was disconnected when I was reading the names. It gave me that indication that my action is unstable.
Okay.
Hence, my
they are now,
video off.
yeah, they are now up there. They are the names, honorable members. I take it that you're satisfied that the names have been captured correctly.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoma, and share those. May I then check from the point of the agenda? I understand that's to be the first and last item we're to deal with. But let me check if there may be announcements you'd have remembered that needs the attention of members.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Chair, you are correct in terms of the agenda. Chair, the names, once the committee has adopted them, they will also be published for public comments. We use the parliamentary ATC, parliamentary social media platforms, as well as issue a media statement and allow for members of the public to make comments. During that 2-week period, Chair will also be follow-ups with SSA and also just run the Ms. Metuse's qualification with the HR. So by the time we get to the end of the 2 weeks, all the information back, and we would have also identified a date for the interviews, which will be immediately after the end of the 2-week period. Thank you very much, Person.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoma. I take it that just for the completeness of the announcement that we are moving to a committee meeting at 9. I take it also that the link would be the same as the link that has been used by members. All right.
You are correct, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Okay. With that having been said, honorable members, thanks for your attendance to the subcommittee meeting. This committee has now concluded its business and the meeting is now adjourned until we meet in the committee for the adoption of that. Thank you.